I have made way too many videos like this because I like to talk about my favorite Warframes, but it's been about a year since I've actually made a complete list of the best frames in the game in my opinion. Now I know I did make one the other week, but that was just for Fortuna. So this time, it's the end of the year. There's been a lot of changes, new Warframes that have come into the game, and so why not just talk about the ones that I think are the best because, they're new players who are going to be needing to know which frames they should go for. And I just thought I could help out by talking about the ones that I recommend. And of course, everyone is going to have different opinions. Be sure to watch multiple videos, and people will definitely explain it better than I can, especially on the frames that I don't play too much. Or if there isn't a frame on this list, who knows, it might be a really good frame. But it's just not on here because I personally don't enjoy them as much. So yeah, make sure you of course check out other people's videos. There are very good guides on how to build certain frames. And I'm only going to be talking about like a few builds for each frame that I play and that I'm going to have on this list. So with that out of the way, let's just begin and get into the list. I just said list a lot, but yeah, I also want to quickly mention that the frames on here are of course based on opinion, what I think is the best. Depending on what you're doing, it can change. And of course, everyone has a different opinion on what frame they like playing. You are mainly, if you're new to the game, you're going to want to get a feel for each frame and learn which ones that you enjoy the most because of course that's how it works. You're going to want to play with every frame. I'm not really going to be counting the primes and non-primes as different frames because they are usually just slight variations with very few stat changes. And with that out of the way, let's just get into the actual video with the first frame. Let's of course start with starter frames. Now of course when you start playing, you get the choice of 3 different frames. Now first, I just want to say don't get Mag. She is the easiest of the 3 to get, and she also isn't that good in general. So that just leaves us with Volt and Excalibur. Between these two, which one should you start out with? Of course, opinions are going to be coming out for this. Everyone is going to have different ones, and of course this is my video, so here's my opinion. Now, to me, I say go with Volt, because Volt is just a great frame. He is a jack of all trades. Excalibur can put out some pretty nice damage numbers, but all around Volt is just better. His first ability, Shock, is pretty meh, but all of his other abilities are absolutely amazing. His second ability allows him to give a speed boost to both himself and his teammates, which also increases the melee attack speed that you have, and it's just a great boost all in all. His 3 just puts up a shield that blocks all incoming damage while making any bullets that you shoot through it get a shock buff, and it increases the critical damage by a decent amount. This also allows for some great damage numbers for everyone in your party because of course you're not the only one who can use it, and you can also pick up the shield and have some mobile cover. And his final ability, Discharge, also allows for some pretty nice damage numbers because what it does is it just shocks every enemy around you, and with the augment, you get a lot of shields from it because I think it converts 3% of the damage done into shields, and you can also get it to deal a decent amount of damage when modded too. So let's just talk about builds now. For Volt, I highly recommend a strength build with decent duration because it makes your speed boost faster, and your shield can last much longer from the duration, and his discharge will deal much more damage. If you plan on running him with an augment, you can of course replace any of the mods seen on screen right now with what you would want to, and of course the mods on screen are what my build is, and you can just put him around to your own free will. If you want to run Volt with an augment, the only augment I would recommend on him would of course be his discharge augment because it gets you shields. His other augments just aren't really that worth putting on there for any other mod that you can put there. So now that we're here, how do you get Volt if you didn't choose him at the beginning? Well, it's simple. You just join a clan and you can get him from the research lab. And that's going to do it for Volt. He's a very good frame. I highly recommend you start out with him if you're new to the game. And let's move on to the next frame. Chroma. Hands down the best tank in the game to me. Chroma is an incredible frame and is an absolute beast. I don't really think there's any other frame that can beat his damage. At least from my experience, I've always noticed that Chroma seems to be the one frame who can deal more damage than anyone else in the game, especially when paired with the right weapons. But you mainly build him around his 2 and 3 abilities, Elemental Ward and Vex Armor, because these abilities are just very good together. But Vex Armor specifically is insane. This allows damage taken on your shields to increase your armor, while damage taken on health increases your damage output. Both of these can go to insane numbers, and with the build I'm running, which isn't even that optimized for builds, allows me to get to 800% armor and 600% damage. This allows Chroma to be very powerful anywhere. You can also just recast the ability at any time, unlike some other abilities, so you won't actually lose the buff that you have up. You just keep your 800% armor, whatever your damage stat is, and you don't have to get more damage taken on you to increase them again. Now, Elemental Ward, on the other hand, is slightly different because it's all about what's going on. Chroma is based around his energy color. Red is fire, blue is electricity, white is ice, and green is toxin. So with Elemental Ward, it outputs a shield that is, of course, based on that. If you are with red energy color, it will have a fire shield around you that damages people with fire whenever you get near them. And so, yeah, it's really simple to understand. I would recommend ignoring Chroma's Spectral Scream. It's not that good of an ability. I mean, it's nice for low-level content, but it's just not going to be that good in general. Now, Effigy, on the other hand, his final ability is fairly nice. It doubles credits dropped and allows for some decent amounts of credits on defense missions. All this ability does is it sheds your pelt, and essentially you form a little dragon that just shoots enemies. Then it stays right wherever you activated the ability. And whenever you activate this, you actually leave the pelt, and you get to run faster, and you can melee faster too, I believe. But it also does decrease your health and armor in general, I think is what it is. I'm not entirely sure, I forget on that one. So how do you get Chroma? Well, it's super simple. All you do is you play through the game, you do the star charge, but specifically when you get to the Europa Junction, you get the new Strange quest. Now, to get the rest of his things, which is, of course, you get the blueprint from the new Strange. After that, you go to the other junctions, and I believe the last one is the Eris Junction going to Pluto, maybe? I can't recall correctly, but you just do the junctions in-game, you play the game, and you will get all of his parts eventually, and you can just craft them in the foundry. So yeah, he is a very good frame. I highly recommend him. Incredibly powerful tank, and you just get him by playing the game normally. Also, though, he's a dragon. You should get him. Let's talk about a support frame real quick. Now, Haro is an incredible support frame, and I had a very tough time deciding between Haro or Trinity, but in the end, it's all down to preference, and so to me, I like Haro more. I enjoy playing him much more than I do Trinity, but again, it's up to you. So of course, I would try Trinity first. I mean, try either of them. They're both incredible frames, but to me, I prefer Haro, and I will explain why. Now, Haro is great at a lot of things, but he isn't the best healer. Now, he can still heal a lot, like, don't get me wrong, he is an incredible healer, but if you're looking for someone who is just a main healer, go for Trinity or on any other of the support frames. But Haro really shines in terms of how much he can do in general. And he's also just so fun to play. All of his abilities are useful. His first ability allows you to stun enemies so that you can rack up headshots with his third ability, leading to pretty much always having energy. His second ability sacrifices shields, which allows you to fire faster and you gain lifesteal on damage. And this is absolutely incredible because you can heal quite a bit if you have the right strength setup. His final ability, Covenant, allows you to become temporarily invincible, and this is also for your allies, not just you. And it absorbs all damage taken, converting it into critical chance amplifiers, and it increases your headshot critical multiplier, which also allows for some insane damage numbers. Now, Haro is incredible for Eidolon hunting, and if you're going to go into a public match because you don't have anyone with you that wants to run them, I would recommend you go in with him because you can never go wrong running him. So here's the build that I like to run, since I mainly run him solo. The build involves good duration, decent range, and decent efficiency, which allows me to keep using all of my abilities and stun enemies for a decent amount of time. Another good build also involves you getting much higher duration and strength than I have right here, because it allows for more shields from Condemn, and it also gives you more lifesteal, which makes him an even better healer than he originally is. But yeah, still again, if you're going for just plain healing, Trinity is going to be there for you. She is the best for that. So, how do you get Haro? Now, all you have to do is complete the survival node Mott in the Void, and you have to have completed the War Within quest, and once you have that, you can go to the Red Veil and obtain the quest, which is the Chains of Haro. Now, to actually get his part blueprints, it's a little tricky because it's all RNG, but the first two parts are easy to get. The first one, you just get through any Void Fisher mission. They will drop through the enemies that come from the Void. And the second part is from running the Extermination on Lua, where you just find the vaults, but they can be a little tricky to find at times. You just have to listen for the noise, learn the locations of where they can spawn, and just check those all the time. But the final part is really annoying. Now what you have to do is you have to get to Rotation C on defection missions, which sucks because it's just boring, and if you don't get it, playing it so many times can get really annoying and frustrating. But it is well worth it. Haro is incredibly fun to play, and it's a great frame. 10 out of 10, I would recommend him to anyone at any time. The next frame is going to be Mesa. Mesa is an incredible frame that is very good with pretty much everything that she does, and she just recently got her Prime variant, which is only a better version of her. Sadly, I don't have it yet, but let's just move on from that. Mesa has very good abilities aside from her ballistic shield, but you never really need that. Her Shatter Shield, which is her third ability, makes her an absolutely incredible tank, while her second ability, Shooting Gallery, just increases the damage of both her and her allies. This is a great ability, and both of these together are absolutely beautiful. And all you really need to make her good is that you just need to maximize your build. And the build I highly recommend for you would be High Duration and Strength, as you can see on here, just so that you can maximize the damage absorption on the shield and the damage boost from Shooting Gallery. Now, Shatter Shield only maxes at 95% damage reduction, which can suck, but you become very beefy as long as you are running a decent amount of armor and, of course, health and shields. And you can also run the build with decent efficiency so that you can constantly use her Peacemakers effectively. Now, the build on the Peacemaker, since of course it's an exalted weapon, I just recommend a Corrosive build because Corrosive is just, I think, the best one in general. I don't really ever see a need for anything else unless you're specifically fighting other types of people, but usually the enemies that you run into that you have the most problems with just have high armor, and Corrosive gets rid of it with ease. Now, when it comes to builds, I don't really recommend any of her augments. Mesa's Waltz is fun, but you can already fly through the air with Peacemakers active, so it's kind of a useless augment. But yeah, Mesa isn't too hard to get, but it does take some time because you do have to get to Eris, and that means you have to also do the quest for her, which is Patient Zero, and to actually get her part specifically, you have to kill Mutalist Alad V, which after you complete Patient Zero, you get the actual assassination mission for him. But to get there, you have to get Mutalist Alad V coordinates, so while you're playing the game, you should of course be doing as many invasions as you can that drop these, so that whenever you're actually at the boss, you can play through it a few times to get the parts that are needed. And it's not too hard, it's just RNG again, it takes some time. Again, very easy to get, very powerful frame, just takes some time, but after you get her, I guarantee you won't regret it. She is so fun to play, and she also just looks amazing with her skins. The final frame I'm going to have on this list is Evaru. Now, Evaru is an absolutely incredible stealth frame, and her kit reflects this very well. The first ability that she gets is Quiver, which allows you to cycle between 4 different arrows, all allowing for stealth play. Now, the first arrow is Cloak Arrow. This allows you to turn any ally invisible, or you can just set up an area of invisibility around you. But this also means that you can turn AIs invisible, such as the Swordy Defense people, and as long as they're your allies, you can turn them invisible and actually stick it on them, which allows them to walk around with it. The second arrow in here is the Sleep Arrow, which is simple, just puts every enemy within its radius to sleep for a certain amount of time. Third arrow is the Dash Wire Arrow, allows you to go fishing easier. That's all that I really use it for. The fourth arrow is the Noise Arrow, which draws enemy attention to it. And that's it for her arrows. They're really simple, really fun, very nice to play with. Her second ability is Navigator. This just allows you to take control of any projectile from you as a person. So if you throw a glaive, you can control it, move it how you want, shoot an arrow, same thing. And it's a very fun ability. It's not the most useful, but it's nice. Now, her best stealth ability, which is her 3, is Prowl, which just allows you to turn invisible until you're out of energy, and it allows you to pickpocket enemies to steal their loot. Now, the reason the ability is so nice is because it makes running solo survival with her super fun and easy, because you can just pickpocket oxygen from the enemies. Her final ability is an exalted weapon, the Artemis Bow. Now, the bow on its own isn't the strongest, but if you pair it with her augment, pulling all arrows into one arrow, it makes it very powerful, especially now that with the augment you can actually headshot enemies. So, let's talk about builds. Now, with Evaru being a frame with many different abilities, you can build her in many different ways. Now, for pure stealth, and also for amazing level grinds, run the build that I have on screen right here. It allows for a good duration, a decent amount of range, and good efficiency. This means that you can use Prowl indefinitely pretty much, and sleep every enemy that you see, giving you enough time to assassinate them all and keep your stealth affinity multiplier up. What that means is that you can just level your weapons very easily by keeping your multiplier up, and sometimes even max out a weapon in one game. Now, the other build that I would recommend is of course just one for her bow that maximizes strength and efficiency with her augment, allowing you to do insane amounts of damage with the bow, and it also allows for great CC because of the explosion from the augment. Now, getting Evaru can be a bit of a task though, as it is very RNG driven, just like Haro. You get Evaru from playing any spy mission, but the thing is that you have to play through different tiers. Now, tier 1 is considered level 1 through 15 spy missions. Tier 2 is from 15 to 25, and Tier 3 is 25 plus. So you just have to run spy missions, and eventually you will end up getting her blueprint parts from it. So it can be very frustrating to get her, but once you do, I guarantee you won't regret it. She is an absolutely amazing stealth frame. Now, again, There are other stealth frames that are very good. Loki is great if you're new to the game. He's a very simple stealth frame. Equinox with a sleep build is very nice for stealth runs. But I just believe that for a pure stealth build, Evaru works the best and I love her the most for it. Now that we're at the end of the video, let me actually quickly talk about some honorable mention frames. Now, the first one is going to be Rhino. Rhino is a very noob-friendly frame, and he's very easy to get, and you should always get him early on. But the reason that he's so good is that he's so tanky and has really good abilities because he can buff his teammates' damage, he can stun every enemy around him, and again, he's just really tanky. Very simple frame. If you don't have him already, go for him. Very easy to get, very fun. Now, the next frame is going to be Equinox. Now, Equinox is much harder to get. You have to essentially build 2 Warframes to get him, but once you have him, he is great. He can just slash through every enemy that you run through. You don't even have to look at them. They just die by looking at you. You can put everyone to sleep, as I mentioned, with a sleep build, but he has a bunch of different builds. You'd have to experiment with them, see which one you like most. He's a complicated frame. And for the final frame that I'm going to have on the honorable mentions, that's going to be Mesa. Mesa is a frame that I've recently been playing a lot because he is super tanky. He gets to run really fast because whenever you slide, you get to keep the momentum as you sprint, but you have to keep sliding to keep it up. And all of his abilities are really fun. He can just impale every enemy around him to stun them. He can throw his little shield thing on the back and teleport to it. And he can also just become pretty much invincible with his warding halo. Mesa's just a really fun frame to play. You get him from the dojo now. He's not that hard to obtain. And that's all you really need to know about him. He's a great frame. And that's it. We're at the end of the video. Now, of course, this is a list that is completely my opinion and everyone has their own. Be sure to tell me your guys' favorite frames down in the comments. I'll reply to them because discussion's always nice. If you did enjoy the video, a thumbs up is always appreciated. And I'll have more content coming soon. I already have some other videos I'm working on right now. But this is what I wanted out first for the new players and for the new year. So, of course, if you do want to see more of my content, be sure to hit that subscribe button and the notification bell so that you can see when I upload next. Other than that, I hope you guys have a fantastic day. I'll see you guys next time.